We're at time.
All right, time. All right. Okay, welcome everyone. Welcome, welcome. So, just like last time, Ginger, we're going to go ahead and get started with our housekeeping and then we'll do our introductions. If you want to do that at the same time, that's fine.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm Ginger. I work on the marketing team here and here to assist Kathleen as she, guides us all through primary sources. So a couple of quick housekeeping items, where we really want to interact and have answer your questions and have you answer a few of our questions. So, get comfortable with the chat. Make sure you have your settings set on everyone so that everyone can see your responses. If you have questions, there's also a Q&A box on your Zoom bar, and we'll be fielding questions from there, either live or if it's a quick question, I will just type the response in. We do have closed captioning available on the Zoom bar, so if you wanted captions, you can use the show captions function. And yeah, I think that's everything on the housekeeping side. And Kathleen, over to you.
Perfect. Okay, so I am Kathleen Garrity. I am a resource teacher in Tampa, Florida for K-5, and I am very excited to be doing this presentation. Educator for I'm just starting this year, my 33rd year in education. Um, it's been a long road and a very exciting road, and it's always very interesting to me how when I started out in education, we used primary sources and we talked about secondary sources, and then they kind of got shoved away a little bit, and now they're really starting coming back again, which I absolutely love. So let me go ahead, and we are going to start out with our icebreaker. Now, before I go over this with you and everything, I just want to make you aware I'm going to be asking a bunch of questions. I'm going to be asking you guys to put stuff in the chat. The point is, I am not the end all cure all for primary sources. We have so much genius out there. In fact, 92 geniuses out there, 93, 94, counting myself and Ginger. So we just really want to get input from everybody. Something that really, really works well for you as we go through some different ways that you can use primary sources in your elementary classroom. So if you could please, I have a couple examples of some primary sources out here, but if you could go ahead and put in the chat, how do you use primary sources in your classroom? And I'm going to give you guys a few moments to go ahead and write that. Please have your chat open so you can see what everybody's putting on there, because we can start out with that genius right now.
There's already a few genius
Perfect.
responses in there. Gallery walk seems to be a favorite.
Yeah. Oh, Constitution. Ooh. Yes. Discussions, maps. Maps is unfortunately, one of the most forgotten one of them. Very much, I feel like it gets forgotten. Yes, talking about secondary sources, that goes along many times with those primary sources. Yes, there are some heavier pieces out there. Definitely, definitely. Okay, we've got about another 20 seconds. If you can put something in there, please, please, please go ahead and put it in there. Even if somebody's already said it, totally fine. Mm. Oh, I love that oral history. Thank you so much. Using mother-in-law for Chinese New Year. Yes, that is a primary source. Perfect, perfect. Okay, you guys are welcome if you still want to put them in there. So to put in there, we're going to go ahead and move on. So what we're going to be covering today, and I'm kind of keeping myself honest because I'm going to tell you, as I was putting this presentation together, I kind of had a couple different things that I was bouncing all over from, but I wanted to kind of keep that central idea going. First of all, what is a primary source? And I remember for many years there was a lot of debate over, well, that newspaper, that person's perspective. Yeah, it was written in 1917. Is it a primary source now in 2025? And so just kind of looking at that and not getting hung up on what's a secondary and what's a primary source, just doing the basic definition of it. How do we incorporate primary sources into our classroom? I'm going to give you some ideas that I've used and also talk about some other ways that we can kind of sneak them on in there. And great ideas, but how do I find time? Woohoo, there's our enemy many times, time to cover this and everything else. When can we go ahead and slip it on in there? So we're still doing social studies, we're still using those primary sources, but still covering everything else that we need to cover also. So here's the definition. What is a primary source? Direct, original evidence. It includes letters, diaries, pictures with firsthand experiences. This is just a Webster's textbook. I don't know if it's even Webster's definition of what a primary source is. Some of the benefits that I have noticed is builds a lot of interest. Kids get excited about it, help students develop critical thinking skills. And a lot of that has to do with us. It has to do with, okay, showing them this great picture. Do we just show it to them and go, move on to the next picture? Or are we asking those very, very great, carefully sequenced questions that lead to discovery? And it also helps students become better citizens because even in K1, 2, many times we have in our standards and our benchmarks, we have primary sources in there, ways that we can teach it in the primary grades that are still very age appropriate for them. So this is some of the things that we're going to be talking about. We're going to talk about picture books or historical people, using famous quotes, and also building excitement with different kinds of visuals. And also one that I just heard just a couple of days ago, Finish the Story, which is probably one of my new favorites on there. Now, so here's what I like you guys to do. I want you to pretend that you are an elementary student. You can be K all the way to 5, completely up to you what you want to be. So what I'd like you to do first is just look at the picture. Just look at the picture. Give yourself a moment. Just look at everything that's in this picture. Now, I want you to put in the chat, what do you see? Don't interpret, just give me basic, what do you see? Like grandma reading. Perfect. Ah, love the clothes. I love mentioning the clothes. Okay. Now, we're going to go a little bit further. What does this visual tell you about this lady? What are some characteristics that you are getting about this lady just by looking at the picture? Go ahead and put that in the chat. Oh, okay. Yes, I like that. She definitely is likes to read. She is reading something, knows how to read. Black and white, older, perfect. Hairstyle too. Okay. Now we're going to make a little bit of a leap, and it should say, kind of wording right in here. Why do you think we would study somebody like this? Why is she somebody important that we would study? Go ahead and put that in there. Important. Okay. Perfect. Something we can definitely talk about at Women's History Month. Perfect. 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 Okay, now I just want to point out to you in this down here, the credits down here on the bottom, I actually have the credits, most of them in the trainer notes. Every visual that I have it out that I pulled for this presentation came out of TCI. Every single one of them. I did not have to go to the land of Google everything that I needed to do this whole entire presentation is in TCI. I'm sorry to kind of like take you, squirrel, take you off on a little side over there. Um, and where this came out of was the TCI biography videos. So I just want you to be aware I'm not like combing the internet. I wasn't spending hours upon hours upon hours finding images. I found them all in my TCI program. Okay. Now we're going to take it a little step further. So that first one, we might stay with primary on there, but let's go ahead and I'm going to read with you guys what do we see on here. So this is the same lady, a little different picture, but the same lady. Friends and fellow citizens, I stand before you tonight under indictment for the alleged crime of having voted at the last presidential election without having a lawful right to vote. It should be my work this evening. It shall be my work this evening to prove to you that in thus voting, I not only committed no crime, but instead simply exercised my citizens' rights, guaranteed to me and all U.S. citizens by the National Convention, beyond the power of any state. Okay. Now, because I couldn't fit everything on there, so we see another lady, but now I want you to, we don't need to worry about number one. What does the visual and the quote tell you about this woman? So I'm going to go back to it. So put that in the chat. What does the visual and the quote now tell you about this woman? Yes, 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 yes. She questions the status quo. Awesome. Perfect, perfect. And the next question on there was, why do we study her? Now, this is a great thing also to kind of show you too on here. Great intro to lots and lots of different things that we could be going over. Okay. So this could be an intro of you are about ready to go over the women's rights movement. It is March. You want to talk about women's rights. Or maybe in your literature, your reading program, they're talking about it. By the way, does anybody want to take a guess who this woman is? I'm sorry, I missed that part. Does anybody want to take a guess who this woman is? Yes, it is Susan B. Anthony. You are right. You are right. So maybe, as I said, maybe in our reading program, we're going to read about Susan B. Anthony. Here's a great way to introduce her. Or I found a great picture book about her during March, or as and if your reading program covers her anytime at all, we could cover her and maybe talk about some other people too. So here's one way to incorporate primary sources in there. Now, this quote might be a little bit difficult for our K-1-2s. Three, we might have to do a little explaining a little bit. 4, 5s, depending on your students. But we could point out some things on here. We could then take it to that level. Instead of it being a quote from her, a primary source, we could then go ahead and put it as a secondary source and just talk about her saying, I'm not given the right to vote. I went and voted and I got arrested for it. I think I should be allowed to vote. So now you've built some excitement about Susan B. Anthony and about other people. You could kind of segue into other people on here. So this is a great way to add in that quote part, which you can turn into a secondary source and also have that picture on there. So it's going to get some excitement with your students. Okay, get some excitement with your students. So these are the questions. So how I'm just gonna kind of have you guys, don't worry about putting in the chat, have you guys ask yourselves these questions. How does this build excitement about the person that they will be learning about? How does this strategy help with literacy? Now, one thing though, I do want to talk to you about. How much time do you think this is going to take? So let's kind of talk. I'll talk a little bit about it, and if you want to put some questions in there. But what I have seen done on this is just asking those very, very simple questions. We can get that done in about 5 minutes. Then maybe changing that into a secondary source, going over it there. We have that, and then we go on into what we're going to be covering, whether we are doing, as I said, a picture book, or we have learning about it, or we're introducing Women's History Month. Okay. So far, does anybody have any questions, Ginger, that we could go over right now?
I'm seeing lots of good answers to the questions that you have on the
Perfect.
slide, but I do have two questions in the Q&A specifically about the TCI program. So you mentioned that like all of the primary sources that you pooled are from TCI. I have a
Correct.
question about, is there a place that shows like which primary stat sources matches to each lesson?
So I'm okay. So does there in every single lesson under TCI is going to be something called Dive Deeper. And that is true for a kindergarten lesson all the way up to a fifth grade lesson, and truthfully, all the way up to a 12th grade lesson. Where I did get some of this information from, especially hers, was from the biography section. So some of our biographies have videos that go with them, and they are very short, nice videos. And that's another great way to introduce somebody, to introduce any historical figure you'd like to. There is going to be a little bit of secondary sources in there because somebody is going to be narrating it. But the visuals, many times, especially if there was photography, I'm like showing the camera over here, photography at that time, then you're going to have the ability to stop it and take a look at uh those those primary those photos. Those two that you see for Susan B. Anthony, what I did was I played the video and I stopped it and I clipped it and I added it up here. So it was just a really, really quick way for me to go ahead and put it into a PowerPoint to introduce Susan B. Anthony to my students.
Thanks. So a few more questions actually just
Okay,
floated in. So Carol wants
sure.
to know if TCI offers approved primary sources. Their district is very careful about using outside sources.
Okay, so I live in Florida. I know about I just if I'm worried about something, there I feel pretty good, and I really can't answer for your district. It's there if these are materials that were approved by your district, that usually means that like you're able to use them because the district is like, yes, you can use TCI materials. Then that is going to be something that I'm gonna say that bad word. Assume that you can, but if you ever have any doubt of anything, ask. Say, this is a visual I want to show. Now, I'm going to tell you, there are some pictures some photos that I saw, I'm like, I would never show that because I didn't feel comfortable. And I know you see what I'm doing right now? I'd be this or clicking, I would be getting inundated with emails and phone calls. So I always err myself on the side of caution. But I saw so many on there that I had a choice. Okay. I didn't have to pick, two. There were a lot of different choices that were on there.
Thanks, Kathleen. And I will say that from the product development side of these like they're very carefully vetted by scholars and editors, and things get many reviews before they make it into the publication.
You don't want any
Uh,
teacher getting in trouble. Nobody wants that.
yes. Okay, and two more questions. Can you model how to turn a quote into a secondary source?
Oh, okay. So, there is actually can we like bookmark that one?
Yes,
Because
yes.
there are some great ones in TCI that I would like to show you. So if we could bookmark that one, we'll go live at the end. And I'll show you that. Yeah, Ginger put that like I'll write myself a mental note, but I sometimes forget. Between the
Yes,
two of us,
I'll
we'll
keep
remember.
my eye on the clock. And then
Okay, and then what was the other one?
how do you help kids who are dyslexic?
Okay, with those. Definitely have TCI has the ability, if you are using quotes out of here, to have it read to you. If it is in there, it is readable. Now, the biographies, I don't believe they have that function on there yet. But if it is in the text or it is in that primary source library that we had, not primary source library, I'm sorry, the dive deeper under the dashboard, it is going to have the ability there to be read for you. So be read to the students to help out with that as a great differentiation.
All right, that's all we have for now. I'll
Okay.
bookmark Kathy's question.
Yes. Thank you. Okay, guys. So you, I'm going to give you an assignment, not really for right now. You you are now starting a lesson about our national symbols. So here's what I want you to do. Decide on whatever grade that you have. You have two choices in front of you. I want you to pick one of them, and I want you to put in the chat two questions that you would ask your students or more, two questions that you would ask your students to help them understand, better understand this primary source. Like, what would you use it for? Okay, are you just doing it as a national symbol? So I'm going to give you a moment. We're going to do a little practice here. Okay, so pick which one, and then I want you to put a couple questions in the chat. And please keep your chat open so you can look and see. As I said, we've got geniuses here. What do you think is happening in this building? That right there, that was the questions that I was coming up. What in the world? So guys, take a look at some of the questions that are being on here. I know they're being really, really quick here, but definitely look great questions on there, especially if your standards cover anything about patriotism or government, can be introduced, K all the way to 5. Oh, how are they using both of them? Awesome, awesome, awesome. So this was introduced to me, the one on the left was introduced to me more of an historical going into like fourth and fifth because there's a lot of different historical things, the 13 and those kind of, what that means on there. But the one on the left, I mean, the one on the right, a lot of stuff going on. You can use that in there too. So I just wanted to kind of show you, how would you use this primary source and all of that. So thank you guys so very much for that. Go ahead and putting it in there. Now we're going to go on to, so we have some visuals here and a couple quotes. Now we are going to just look at using quotes, excerpts, and major documents. So here's what I'd like you to do. These quotes are related. Okay. Go ahead and read them. Okay. Go ahead and read them. I'll give you a moment. Now, um, my last session, which was the first session, we talked pretty extensively about vocabulary. And because there's so much of reading vocabulary is social studies vocabulary. Now, you might look at these quotes and go, oh, that's some heaviness right there. And let's talk first. What are some words they have in common? Let's pull it apart. What are some words that these quotes have in common? Please go ahead and put in the chat. What are some words they have in common that we can pull out? Ah, Great Britain, yes. Oops. Now, if you go through, now we've looked at, so they both have something to do with Great Britain. Okay. Now, I'm going to tell you this is more fifth grade because I was trying to get those like higher major documents kind of things. But the injuries and disadvantages which we sustained by that connection are without number. It is to renounce the alliance. And then we have another one. We are absolving our allegiance to the British crown. So these two are connected. They are connected. So what do you think if we go through, we pull out the vocabulary word, we read about them, we talk about the things that are similar? What do you think these two quotes have in common? What are these two? What are two things that these, not two things, what something that these quotes have in common? They have Great Britain in common. Yes. Okay. They both have that in common and freedom and independence. Yes, one of them, I have somebody guess it. Thank you, Elizabeth. One of them is the Declaration of Independence. The bottom one is. And to try to pull in those difficult texts, the top one is from Common Sense, written by Thomas Paine. So his idea, common sense, which I'm going to tell you now, that is a difficult piece of text. I was struggling a little bit with myself, but I tried to find ways that we could make that connection. So having things that are different but similar and kind of making them a little bit easier for our students. We're absolving our allegiance to the British crown in the Declaration. In the next one, we are renouncing our allegiance to the British crown. So two different quotes and primary sources and what they have in common to help with students understand what was written at that time and also bringing in the text part of primary sources. Now, gonna tell you, it's sometimes hard in those K-1-2s, but I got a couple on here. To really bring, because especially these older documents, because they can be a little bit difficult, but really like looking at the vocabulary and breaking it down. So, next one I want to show you, take a look at these. Take a look at this. Two different documents. What is some words that they have in common here that we could underline as a class? Like, what could some of the words that we could underline as we look through this as a class? Yes, both of them talking about freedom, free exercise, and religion. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. And prohibiting, cannot. Okay, so we could be bringing in those higher questions on there. And what does freedom actually mean? Okay, so that could be one of the words that we put on our word wall and we go over. What exactly does that mean in there? Okay, so, oops. Uh-oh. I'm sorry, I just accidentally stopped sharing. I touched something too sensitive, too sensitive. Sorry about that. Okay. Now we read the quotes. How are they similar? What's similar about them? So we pulled out that common vocabulary, but in their statements, how are they similar? Both talking about freedoms. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. So, this bottom one, okay? So, this is a great way to do a little comparing and contrasting with documents. The bottom one is right out of Article 1 of the the Bill of Rights, right out of there. The next one I pulled from a state constitution. Okay. So it is a great way to kind of look at it and say national government and state government. And many times in fourth grade, you do have the state history and state government. How is it aligned or how is it similar to national? So pulling out that information on there and seeing how they are similar. And nothing wrong with introducing the idea that no state law can go against national law. National law is supreme. Okay, so great way to introduce it right on there. Okay, so any questions that we can answer? Oh, you know what? I got one more thing in this little using quotes and excerpts. So, Ginger, we'll hold on just for a moment. We'll hold on just for a moment. Okay, got another one for you. Now, here's what we're going to do. Um, Here's what I would do with my students: pass these out, pass out these quotes, pass them out, and have the kids take a look at the quotes. Have the kids go, "What can you tell me about this person?" Okay, so pass them out. And I'm going to have you guys, as I said, there's going to be a lot of looking in the chat, right in the chat. Pass them out. And there's only three. So you can give multiple groups, can have weightlessness as the great equalizer. Okay. So you pass them out. And the kids that have, for whatever reason, I didn't succumb to the stereotypes that science wasn't for girls. What can you tell us about her, about this person? And then the next one. So they might read it and say, well, we think this person is this, and we think this person is this. Okay. And we're going to kind of build a little bit. Well, what can we tell about this person? Hey, give us some characteristics that you kind of, you know, what can you tell me about this person? And we're going to kind of build up to what we think this person is. After we do that and we have that share, I'm going to go ahead and pass out the next thing. Now give me some more information about this person. More primary source documents. Yes. So we started out with all things that she has said. So we could kind of tell on there. Did the weightlessness kind of tell you that maybe, that's interesting? She's talking about weightlessness. That's kind of interesting on there. And and we this lesson started developing, it didn't finish all the way, is something great to when it was done actually at the end of the school year, with what they were reading about, and it was women that had done amazing things. Could it be done during Women's History Month? Of course. Could be done in the beginning of the year? Yes. But it's just building up that excitement, having students make conclusions about um about the person just from stuff that they said. And then we're going, it is Sally Ride. So yes, she was the first woman astronaut. But then after she retired, she then went on and did a whole bunch of things with science and she was a speaker and she did a lot of different kinds of things out there, besides just doing that. And that's why she did also mention about, science isn't just for boys. So, okay. So do we have any questions, Ginger, before we go on to the next one?
Yes. So
Okay.
one question about how do you suggest using these or do you suggest using these within a time frame of social studies as warm-ups? They're not tied to the activity slides and seem to dive deeper.
That is correct. So I'm trying to think. So what we did make that literature connection, but this one might not be, but the history ones that we're going to look at next are tied to the TCI resources. So this one I did get out of the biographies, but the ones that we're doing next, I got them right out of the lessons. And some of
Great.
them are warm-ups.
Excellent. Thanks.
Okay. So I think if you guys want to go ahead, I'm just looking at our time. I told you, Ginger, I told you. So if you want to put that in the chat or just be thinking and we could talk about it towards the end, because I do want to get to some other things on here. Okay. So I did want to show you, and every time I circled it, it made a humongous mess. So down here is our biographies on the main page, and our primary source library is also there. Okay. I just want to show you where that was. Okay. Now we're going to look at some other different types of resources. Okay, so here's one right here. So just take a quick look at it. Here's another one. Here's another one. Maps are great for introducing geography, teaching history, and looking at different perspectives. Okay, so talking about that, I mean, look at this one. Look at this, and I'm just going to give you the urban legend on this one, is that they believe this was a 1491-ish around map, different perspectives. How else can you use maps? To find your way around. I love it. Oh my God, triptychs. And they remember triptychs from, yeah. Past populations, yes. And there are so many different types of maps that you have embedded under that reference part in there. So many different types of maps. And I'm going to tell you, one of my favorite lessons that I did, I went into a teacher's classroom and I brought them all 11 by 14 maps. And it was like I had given the students the old Sears wish book. They were so excited. They're like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Yeah, do it with science too. There's so many things that you can do with maps, and they are primary sources. Okay, here's our next one. Now, these are intros. Okay, these are intros to lessons. This one over here is a dive deeper. Okay, looking at past and present. Here's another one looking at schools. A old school book. That's right over here, an old school book. Looking at it, and this is actually from a first grade lesson. It's from a first grade lesson, comparing and contrasting. So historical photos can be used to compare past to present and encourage excitement about a new topic. Okay, any other way that you use photos in your classroom? Please, please, please go ahead and put it in the chat. Hope everybody's following along with that chat, getting ideas on there. Yes, building vocabulary. Yes. Oh, it is a great differentiation, and to help our ELLs. And I know we all have different kind of terminology for different students, help make connection, generate discussion. Yes, because you could start out very simple with the visual discovery strategy of what do you see? What do you see in here? And then when you do that, kind of pulls that out right there. Background knowledge. Yes, 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 yes. Okay. Now, I'm going to do another one. This one's a little bit different. Okay, a little bit different. I hope y'all can hear it.
And blade in freedom's cause, who fought and blade in freedom's cause.
Okay, Now I'm going to play another one for you.
Dear gentlemen and ladies fair, that gracious famous city, come listen if you've time to spare while I rehearse this ditty. And for the opportunity, consider yourself lucky. It is not often that you see a hunter from Kentucky.
Okay, now something totally different. Songs. Now, I know that that is actually not a recording from that time, but the lyrics are from that time, so it's a primary source. So I can tell you that finding songs, and I once again pull them off of TCI, finding songs and different kinds of things out there that is something totally different. It's going to pique some interest. Like, and when I would play those songs for my students, they'd be like, "Oh," and then they would all of a sudden be like, lot more interest in there. They're like, "Oh, it's that kinda gives me." They got a banjo going in there, and he's talking about Kentucky, and what does that tell you then about the person that they're talking about? So, just another thing besides just looking at pictures, another different perspective on there.
I missed the question from
Sure.
earlier, but it kind of ties
Okay.
into this one. So someone wanted to know, like, when vocabulary can sometimes trip students up, um, should it be pre-taught on an activity like this? This is for songs and or quotes, but or does it kind of take away from the pacing of the activity?
I don't think it takes away from it all, and you know your students. There are many times you do need to preach, pre-teach vocabulary, and you are leaving me my next segue into how do I use them with a limited amount of time. This is a great time to, I'm going to skip down to the second one and then go back up. Word walls with those visuals, with the word up there, is still another great way to weave in that primary source in there. Okay, so having it in there definitely, y- I many times, especially with very difficult vocabulary, like some of the vocabulary I showed you guys in those quotes, they were not easy. There were some difficult vocabulary in there. So pre teaching it would definitely do that. Okay. Another thing too, that my district has really gotten behind this year, and it's to help teachers still get that social studies time in there, is timelines. And that is a great place to put in primary sources. So keeping that timeline going, don't just put it up as high as you can and nobody can reach it and every once in a while some student looks at it, but really, really making it that interactive. We just went over this concept. Let's put this on our timeline here. Look at that picture of the students from the 1850s, or it's long, long ago. Many times with primary, you really don't want to give them like pre-colonial time, long time ago, these years, just kind of, and that's a great place to keep those primary sources up and in their mind in there. And also for a quick introduction. Okay, so, Ginger, I wanna go in, what was that question again? Let's go in that real quick, and then we'll
Yeah.
go ahead and kinda close up. Thank you so much, guys. I'm almost out of time, and I wanna make sure that we get through everything. What was the question again? I totally forgot
The
already. I told you to
question
just keep me around.
was, can you please model how to turn the quote into a secondary source?
Okay. So, hold on one second. Let me get back to Hmm. So, many of okay, under the primary source library, just want to point this out. There are quite a few of them that are annotated. Okay, hold on one second. I got to move this out of the way. They're annotated so that you can go through and use that. That's gonna become then a secondary source to kind of help the students out with it. Do you see them on there? Especially with the difficult ones. Now, another thing too, and I'm gonna what I did with some of them is I found the reading in here, and then I just took, like, the background information. I'm gonna say something else, and I hope I don't get in trouble for this. I have taken primary sources, little clips of them, and I'm doing it this, um, putting it into like Chat GPT or something else, and it helps you come up with a secondary source. Am I allowed to say that, Ginger?
Well, I'm not going to
Okay.
stop you.
But that is, and you can put in there the thing with ChatGPT or whatever your district has, is you have to be really particular about how you word things. And that's be like, I want it at a kindergarten level. I want it at a first grade level, and be very specific on how you want it done. And it's a little trial and error. But once you get it and you get that wording, you got it. Okay.
Right.
Okay. Okay, do we have any other questions or and before I go ahead and make sure and we need to get to that last one, right? Ginger to get
Yes.
that. Okay. So, okay, we've already got that. I know you guys have seen these in all of them. So is it okay, Ginger, if I kind of go through it quickly? Because I think
Yes.
I've seen them in all of them. Okay. Please go ahead and look at the professional development that is there. Please go ahead. You can do reflections. We really appreciate it. Any reflections you want to give, I love it. And there's a survey. Thank you guys so much for coming.